Alright, welcome back to part 2 of the Monster Hunter World tier list, where we do, all the Iceborne monsters, and I guess the other various title update monsters that came out during Iceborne as well. Also, one other that might have come out before, but whatever, he's there anyway.
I'm back.
Hello.
Anyways, we've got our first monster here. What is this? Beatotus?
Beatotus, yes. Chainsaw shark.
Yeah. I mean, I will say he's better than the other two, but that doesn't make him good.
I think that he's a fair bit better than the other two. I know, once again, he's a fish, and it's easy to hit on the fish, but having played against him, he doesn't sit there shooting projectiles at you. He's always in a place where you can reach him. I think his mechanics are a lot more manageable, and I think he's also just the coolest of the three. I think his design is the most interesting looking. I would personally put him at the bottom of C tier, where you have him right now, actually. I know he's probably going to end up in D, but I do think he's a significant bit better than the other two.
I don't know, Ethan, what do you think?
He's a fish. He belongs next to the other fish. In fish tier. F for fish.
Here. I don't necessarily agree with that. But, like, I don't know.
He's not any different than the first fish. He's just in a different zone.
I think he's got a set of moves that make him a little bit more interesting. He doesn't do the mud spam. He doesn't do the mud shot. He doesn't do the range projectile. He doesn't do the thing where he makes his armor super hard and he's annoying to fight. I don't know.
I never find the armor. I don't find very painful. It doesn't really matter. You still have to deal with the deep snow, and he ice blights you, so it's not any different than being water blighted. So it's just kind of the same.
I don't know. I mean, maybe. But
he only moves back and forth between two zones, just like the first fish.
He is cooler. He's got the shark fin on his head. And he makes cool noises. I mean...
His noises don't make any sense.
I'm not gonna put him in, like, C tier or anything, but I don't know. I think I'm happy with this fish here.
I'm okay with that.
I think he's, like, doable. Like, I don't love the fight or anything, which is why he's so low, but it's not, like, an active hindrance on my enjoyment, usually, when I have to fight it. Alright, Bombaro.
Bombaro's pretty cool.
He's pretty solid.
He's a fluffy little guy.
He's, like, really annoying because he shows up a lot in other hunts to just shove a giant tree at you. Or, like, a snowball or a rock or something.
The monsters that show up randomly, like, which are Bombaro, Goose, and Pickle, are kind of irritating, but I think they make the game better. So, I really like those monsters.
I'd agree with that. I think the one problem I have with this monster is when he picks up a tree with his horns. I think that attack is really hard to dodge, and I don't think it does a reasonable amount of damage for how hard it is to dodge and how strong it is.
Block it.
Well, not everyone has a block mechanic, but
it is
I will say I love his design. I think it's a very unique looking design.
I love his gear sets design.
Most of the brute wyverns are dinosaur, T-Rex type monster. So this one being like a moose, I think is very unique. Yeah, I think he's a really fun monster, and he's big, and it feels interesting to have him in that environment. He really feels like he fits in well. I would give him probably, I want to say low B.
Yeah, I'd put him in B as well. Probably right behind Valhazak, I think.
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I like his armor set. He has a good gun lance, like, motif. I'm not gonna say his gun lance is, like, amazing or anything, because, almost no gun lances are amazing. But
His
you
armor set
know,
looks cool and isn't
yeah.
good.
It's decent for gun lances, at least. It has some perks. Alright, we've got, Viper, Tobi Kadachi. He's Tobi Kadachi, but in my opinion, worse.
Easily, he's so annoying. They took all the fun things about Tobi Kadachi, and then they just tacked on this really annoying poison mechanic. I think the way he shoots out spines from his tail is cool, but I think just the severity of the poison and how often he inflicts it makes this fight kind of a drag. I would honestly put this in like D tier.
Yeah, I don't like this fight at all. He does have like the downsides of normal Tobi Kadachi and no upside. And he poisons you.
I didn't like Tobi Kadachi, and I only fought this monster, I think, once.
So what do you think? C or D
I thought
tier?
it was a decent amount.
I'd probably put him in D tier.
I
think he's like right below Beatotus.
Yeah, I don't know. I think like right below Tizzy. Because at least
Sure.
he's funny. Which Viper Tobi Kadachi does not have.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I think he deserves a little bit more than that, but I'm not going to go to bat for him. His poison mechanics is very annoying.
Nightshade
Pretty much
Palomu.
The fight is unbearable if you don't bring a antidote sprayer, whatever it's called.
Alright, at first, I thought this was like by far the worst fight in the game. Literally standing under this guy with a gun lance, always standing in a cloud that always puts you to sleep the entire fight. Like, oh my god, it's so annoying. It's so annoying. I mean, eventually I kind of figured out how to not be slept 100 times, and it wasn't so bad, but I don't know. I don't really like this fight that much either way.
I'm personally of the mind that this is a vast improvement on the normal Palomu. I had a lot of fun learning how to do this fight. I thought, as long as you play reasonably positioned, I think that the sleep isn't a big issue. But I can recognize that it's, once again, bow privilege. I think that the range value you get on this fight, or even with Insectlave, I think that those two weapons are very good at positioning around the area, and it makes that fight really interesting. But I could feel like it would be a drag for a lot of the weapons that have shorter range. I'd personally rate this probably like high B tier, but I think it's reasonable for the average player to have a worse experience with this than normal Palomu. Even though I do like his like move where he deflates and he like flies around like a crazy balloon and then charges at you. I think that's really entertaining. His moveset's changed up in an interesting way.
Yeah, he does.
Does he?
It's nice.
Yeah. I thought that this one does that.
He does that, but it leaves sleep clouds, but normal Palomu doesn't. It does not.
I don't remember normal Palomu doing that, but that might be like a Master Rank Palomu thing, just generically.
Well, normal Palomu can do it. He does it very rarely. In Master Rank, he does it a lot more.
Gotcha. Okay. In that case, I'd say it's reasonable to keep him in C tier. I don't think he should be like a D tier monster because I don't think he's that bad, but I do think that he is not as bad as some of the sleep haters out here might.
He's annoying, but he's not like.
I think he's irritating to fight the first time, but once you have sleep resist jewels, he's
free.
I don't know. I think he's fun. I mean, he's kind of just like Palomu, but
yeah,
more. He looks cooler.
Yeah, I put him next to Zerathlos.
I just put him next to Palomu. He's also. It's really fun to do with friend build.
Oh my god.
For reference, friend build is Speed Eater plus wide range.
Yeah. The item using build.
It's the only fight where energy drinks matter, and energy drinks are really good, and they're kind of fun to use.
I think for me personally, I put him here.
I think that's fair.
Because I think he's annoying for the same reason the other top of C tier monsters are annoying, but I like him more than them. So
I was adjusting downwards given what I thought you guys would think, but considering how much you like him, I do think he is better than normal Palomo, even if just by a little. So likely he should be in B tier then, like maybe below Ergon.
Yeah, maybe.
Bottom of B tier.
I'm willing to concede slightly worse than normal Palomo. In any case, Coral Puke.
This is, in my opinion, the best alternative skin monster in the game. I think that what they do with this moveset is very interesting. It changes up the fight a lot, and also it makes it a better fight by like a decent margin. There might be one more that I think is actually better.
I kind of think the opposite. It changes normal Puke's moveset a lot, but I like normal Puke, and I think this guy's kind of annoying.
That's fair.
I do not like the instant water jet stream lasers that
I think, yeah, I think this monster looks really good. The idea that he has to slurp water from the environment is cool, but he just is irritating. He just spins around and shoots lasers randomly and water blights you constantly.
The water blight is certainly annoying. I'd agree with that. I do think that his moveset being like bigger danger at longer range, I think it's reasonable when you get into master rank to have a monster that is more threatening with the laser beams, but I could see where it could be annoying. He doesn't move around enough for me to be too annoyed by it though, because once you get to him, his laser beams are essentially just extending his melee hitboxes out further, so you could just dodge them like you would a normal attack or block them like you would a normal attack. I would say, personally, I put him in like below Raytheon, above Dodogama.
I'd probably just leave him where he is at the bottom of C tier.
I don't think I would do either of those things. I think Puke, I don't know, man. Like, he's okay. Like, you can block his attacks. I definitely like fighting him more than Kushala Deora. But that's just me. I don't know, though. I don't like him that much.
Y'all hate on Kushala Deora way too much.
Look, you're lucky he's not in D tier, okay?
I had to fight to get him into C tier, that's fair.
I don't know, though.
That's fine. I don't feel too strongly about Coral Puke. If it was my tier list, he'd be higher, but I don't know. Top of C tier is reasonable for me. I do think, looking at this tier list, I do think there's one that is out of place, but we should talk about that when we get to the end.
Sure. Normal Barioth?
This, in my opinion, is an S tier fight. I love Barioth. He feels so threatening. He's so fast. At first, he's really difficult to learn, but once you get the hang of it, this fight is fantastic. Him and Frostfang both, to be honest. I don't think there's a significant enough difference between the two of them to warrant putting one in S and the other in like another tier, but
I think there is.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Well, we haven't gotten to Frostfang yet, so I'm not going to talk about him too much as far as, like, his differences go. I like Barioth a lot, actually. I think this fight is sick. His gear's pretty good, so there's a good reason to fight him a lot. A lot of things use some of his stuff in Iceborne. But, you know, I feel like later on, you have a similar fight that's just a better version of it, so I wouldn't put him in S tier. I would put him in A tier.
I think if you compare normal Barioth to most of the other fights in the game, I think on that merit alone, he's an S tier fight. But I think with the knowledge that there is a better version, I think it's reasonable to put him in A tier. I mean, I'm not going to be too broken up about it. I would put him like above Basil Goose though.
I mean, I'd put him above Odogaron, but...
What do you think, Ethan?
I'd put him above Odogaron.
Right,
Yeah, put him there then.
go.
I mean, I think he should be S tier, so I think that's a reasonable spot to put him.
This is a good fight. But yeah, you know, like all good things. Wait, no, hold on, that's not a saying. Never mind. I was gonna say like all good things. There's more gooder things. I was like, wait.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Nargacuga though.
I think Nargacuga is very similar to Barioth in the sense of how the fight plays out, and because of that, I also think this is an A tier.
It's similar. He's got the bleed thing going on, and I think Nargacuga's a little bit less aggressive and a bit more dodgy than Barioth is.
There are some differences, I would say. Like the bleed mechanic, I would say this is not quite as good as Barioth, but I think this is similar to Odogaron and Barioth in the sense of like the pace of the fight. Sometimes they delay attacks a little bit. It's a little interesting. He's got his big tail slam that leaves him vulnerable, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, also the
sound design
monster just looks
awesome.
Cool. He's like a panther with bat wings.
Yeah, I think it should be at least A tier.
I think this monster's kind of lame.
Yeah, I mean...
He's small and unimpressive, his bleed mechanics irritating, he doesn't have any good gear, I don't think he's very cool. He just sort of runs around and spins. And he isn't difficult.
He does spin. And he's not that hard.
And he never shows up, and I'm not sad about it.
Yeah, he winds up being, if you don't go out of your way to fight him, he does wind up being a little forgettable, because he doesn't show up very often, and when he does, he's not that difficult to deal with. Like, by the time you're in Master Rank and have Master Rank gear, his moveset's just not, like...
Yeah, he's not...
his moveset was fairly challenging.
He feels like a high rank monster.
Yeah, he does.
He should at least be at the beginning of Master Rank, but he's too far into Master Rank to, like, matter.
But I still like the fight a lot. I don't think it's anything like Barioth or Jagras or anything to where he's like a punching bag. He still takes like... He's still a monster, right? You still have to fight him. You don't just walk up to him and slam him in the head 50 times and he dies.
Also, he's not that tiny. This is a fairly large monster.
Yeah, he's probably mid-size. He's at least as big as, like, Teostra.
He's not that big.
He's bigger than Puke. And, like, Palomu. But, you know. He's a size, for sure.
He's bigger than Legiana.
And that's probably true. Legiana's fairly large, though.
He's not big enough for me to like him.
I don't know. If you'd put him in A tier, Ethan, you don't like him very much. Which, you know, fair enough. But I think...
I'd probably put him low C.
I think I'd put him here somewhere. Not, like, lower than Oregon, but, like, I don't know, maybe, like... here? I guess.
That hurts to see. Man, that monster would be so much higher in my tier list.
Yeah, I know. But, you know, I think he's cool. But I like a lot of the B tier monsters, so...
I might have forgotten to put him in my tier list.
Oof. Oof.
I think you need to fight that monster more, man. I think you're misattributing how fun that fight is.
I do think you're underrating him a bit, but I still think your points are fair. Like, I don't know. Also, now that I'm, like, looking at this, like, this boy is, like, probably, like, there.
I think Uragon's way too low if we're gonna start reorganizing things. I think Uragon needs to be moved up, but we'll talk about that later.
Uragon's pretty cool, though. I think Oregon's just a solid B tier monster, though. Also, because Ethan was like, nah, he sucks.
He's lame.
Anyway, normal Glavenus.
This monster's unbelievably radical. He's just Anjanath, but he has a great sword for a tail, and it's twice as epic looking.
Yeah.
This is easily an S tier monster. I don't think there's much question about it. I think the one downside is he's very high fantasy. He doesn't really fit into like the more naturalistic look of the game and feel of the game. But at this point in high rank or master rank, you're starting to kind of abandon that feeling, and the
I don't
spectacle
know.
of this fight.
There was that. I think one of like the biggest arguments against evolution is like if you evolved to be optimal, why don't more animals have great swords for tails?
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
Yeah, I feel like being on fire as well is a good evolutionary trait, so, you know.
Yeah. But despite all that, I do think that this monster is an S tier fight. It is just, it's too fun. It's too cool. The spectacle nails it. The challenge of the fight nails it.
Yeah, it's really solid.
A quintessential Monster Hunter like fight. You gotta experience this one at some point.
I'm an S tier exclusionary, so I almost want to put him here. But if both of you want to put him in S tier, I'll put him in S tier.
That's an S tier fight.
Put him above Nergigante.
I don't think you're gonna see much more in S tier besides Nergigante and that guy. I think there's maybe 2 more monsters.
I'm not doing that.
He's better.
Whatever, you can say that. I just I want
the only thing Nergigante is just there to be hit in the face with a hammer.
Whatever. He's the most don't at me, he's the most fun monster in the game to hit in the face with a hammer, so.
I mean, that's probably true. He's got a lot of horns.
Alright, normal Tigrex.
This is where I get my revenge for
for Nargacuga.
Nargacuga, yeah. I hate this monster. This monster's so annoying. I understand that it's cool design, but I really don't think it has anything going for it. It's just like a big lizard, and that's it. Like, we just saw a giant T-Rex that breathes fire and has a sword tail that swings around, and we saw, like, I don't know, so many more unique fights, and this monster is kind of just, it runs at you and you take damage, and sometimes it hits the ground and boulders fly out at you in a weird formation that feels too video gamey for me. Honestly, I would put this as like a D tier monster.
This monster has the best music in the game, and he's this is one of my favorite monsters. He's big tiger T-Rex with wings. He's so cool. I'd put this monster just above Anjanath.
Damn, that's crazy. I think
just
look, he's a Monster Hunter 1 monster. He suffers from the same issues that base Rathalos and like base Diablo suffer from. Aside from maybe looking a little bit cooler than them and having a cool theme song. But
he doesn't even have any like really interesting mechanics compared to those two.
He's just fun. He has no gimmicks. He's just cool and fun to fight.
I don't think he's
and
really
he shows up and he's big.
Charging is so annoying. It's really hard to have any fun in that fight when the monster is constantly running away from you or running at you with a hitbox that you have to block or dodge.
This is difficult. A D tier and an A tier, right? I don't know. I guess
this is the most fun fight in the game to do with a shield.
Probably
might be.
I use a shield, so I don't think it's a D tier fight. Kind of based on that statement, but I don't think it's an A tier fight either. I think for me personally, he should be where Rathalos and Raytheon are, because I think he's just a similarly designed monster who's about as fun. IMO.
I'm okay with that take. I honestly think that's even a little high for him compared to some of the other people in B tier, but I'm okay with moving on, with leaving him there for now.
I'll allow it.
There you go. Nargacuga beat.
And yet Nargacuga is still so much lower than him. How disappointing. You win some, you lose some.
All right. Normal Brachiotos? When I first fought Brachiotos...
They have one of these?
Yeah, I know, right? When I first fought Brachiotos, I thought this monster was so, like, horrible. I thought he was, like, a stain amongst the reputation of this game. I'm like, who dares put these exploding goo stains all over the battlefield? I thought he was so awful. Although, I guess we're only talking about normal Brachiotos, so I suppose, to an extent, my opinion on him never changed. But...
I think normal Brachiotos is better than you're giving him credit for here. I think that he's got some annoying aspects to him, but I think that the fight is... I mean, his design is really interesting. His moveset's really dynamic, and it plays out. It's another one of the area denial movesets, which can be annoying for certain playstyles, but I think it makes other movesets a lot more, or a lot of other weapon types a lot more engaging, because you have to really choose your position a lot more carefully.
Also, once you can deal with Blast Blight, it's not too bad.
Yeah, I do think this monster is maybe over-liked by the community for how good it is. There is another version of it, which we'll talk about later, that I have very different opinions about. But I would say, personally, this monster's probably around Savage Devil-Ho, or Devil-Ho. I wouldn't put him much higher than that, though. I don't think he's like a...
Well, Savage Devil-Ho isn't here yet, but normal Devil-Ho
I meant Devil-Ho. I meant normal Devil-Ho. I think he's basically around there. I think he's a decent fight. He's a decent challenge, but
I would agree.
In the context of this game, he kind of, some of the more interesting, unique, and better designed monsters kind of outshine him to a degree.
I'm gonna need to not be quoted on this later, but he's too big. He's just too much health. He's not very fun.
I am gonna quote you because I know that it's gonna come up later.
That is a wild take, considering what I think we all think about
it's kind of true though. This monster is kind of annoying. He jumps a lot. He leaves a lot of fields down. But once you get used to it, it's not that bad. He at least is a fight, so he shouldn't be in C tier. He fights you, which is something. But I don't know. I don't know where I'd put him in B tier, but he's definitely somewhere here.
I honestly think the lower we put him, the more outraged people will be. This monster is one of the most beloved in the entire series.
I know. But
I'm not a coward. I'd put him at the top of C tier.
Oof.
I like him way more than that.
I like him more than that, but barely.
Well, except for... Actually, I like a couple of the monsters in C tier a decent amount, but they've ended up there anyway. I do think that this monster is, like, mid B tier, though. I don't think he's bottom of B tier, even.
Yeah.
I think my take's kind of bad.
That's fair. I'm gonna just...
But I'm gonna stick to my words, but you can adjust accordingly.
Alright, look. I'm sorry, Toby Kadachi. Every time I look at this tier list, you move down.
I think you're devaluing him too much. I think Puke is too high, but...
Now he's in the perfect spot.
I don't think he's better than Valhazak or Bombara or Nargacuga at all. Like, he should be next to, like, Jagras.
I kind of agree with that. Whatever. Anyway, Punchy Boy. I'll put him, like, here. Actually, maybe here.
That's exactly where I would put him as well.
You know, I'm not, like, the biggest fan of his, but he's alright. Alright. I'm just gonna start this one off by saying I like the Legiana fight, okay? So, you can't say I'm a Legiana hater when I say that I hate this fight, but I hate this fight.
I think that this fight... Yeah, I think Legiana is the perfect, like, balance at the point of the game when you get to it. I think that they try to convert that moveset and add things onto it to make it a challenge in master rank, and I think that it kind of falls flat. A lot of the things they add on are just annoying or frustrating. The constant ice blight, which is a way bigger deal in this version of the fight versus the normal fight. His move where he just like teleports away and then reappears from the sky, drops down on top of you like 3 times. This fight's kind of a mess. I wish this fight was better because Legiana is one of my favorite monsters, but I do think it's like C tier.
Yeah. This monster's annoying.
It still has the upsides of
battlefield
it
is
being
frozen.
based on Legiana, where it's a beautiful monster. It's got a really cool idea behind it. It has some cool moves still that it carries over from the original fight, but I just think the execution is a lot worse in this situation. It's another like Block Diablo situation where they emphasize the part of the monster that weren't the fun parts.
Yeah.
I think this monster's just Legiana.
You know?
I don't know why he exists, but I would have put Legiana a lot lower and put this monster next to Legiana. I literally don't don't think they're any different to fight.
I think you should put him next to like Coral PK.
Where is Black Diablos? Oh, he's in Dookie tier. I
he's
agree with that, but I'm just wondering.
He's a fish.
I think moving. I mean, like if you look at Diablos
I'm
2 tiers
perfectly
down,
okay putting him here because I like Coral Puke more and I like Kushala less, so I'm not gonna complain.
There you go. Yeah, that seems like a reasonable spot.
Fulgur Anjanath.
This is the situation where I think they somehow took an A tier monster, and instead of, tinkering with it and making it worse like they did with Legiana, they tinkered with it and made it way better. This monster is so much fun to fight. He's got his like corkscrew attack. He gets his charged mode where he gets rings on his back. I think he's
probably a bottom S tier monster, but just that one attack with that sound effect where he like scrunches up and then fires himself across the battlefield at Mach 7. It's so cool.
This entire fight is fantastic. The base is Anja, which is already an A tier fight, and they just improve on it. They make him more threatening. They make his moveset more interesting. He's got the different modes. I think that this is one of the best fights in the game, easily.
I think it's so rad.
I don't agree with that, but I don't know. I mean, it's not very far, but in my opinion, I just think he's Anja. They made him better in some ways and worse in others. And I just put him right. I'd put him right next to Anja, but
in many ways, he is right next to Anja.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put him in S tier. I don't think he deserves it. He's got too many irritating things in his kit.
That's fair.
The mucus bit can be a little annoying when he does like the little snot rocket and zaps you, and then his little like kick on the ground with the lightning charge can be annoying. I think it's reasonable to have him top of A tier, but I think he should be higher than normal Anjanath. I personally think he should be S tier though.
I'm gonna leave him at the bottom of S tier. If we have more S tier monsters in here and it looks like he doesn't fit in, I'll move him down. But
actually, I think normal Anja should probably be below Barioth too.
I'd agree with that.
I also agree with that. Acidic Glavenus, I think, personally, for me, they took everything that was good about Glavenus and then made it bad somehow. I don't know how it was possible to make such a cool monster so bad, but I hate this guy.
Yes.
He just spams his tail slam 100 times in a row and lowers your defense. It's just like, stop using the tail slam, and then he doesn't stop. He just keeps using it.
His version of the tail slam also has like a much wider arc. It doesn't go like up and down as much as left to right, which means you have to block it or have to like be out of the range of the attack.
And he's bigger and longer, so it's hard to dodge anything.
That's true. His effect as well, defense down, is a lot less interesting and a lot less fun to deal with than just the burning, especially at this point in the game where pretty much every single fight you're popping a mega armor skin and that just immediately removes it if you ever get hit by any of his attacks. His motif is less interesting. I do think the base of the fight, it's still Glavenus, so it can't be that low, but I do think that this is like maybe like top of C tier.
I think it can be that low.
I think him being a Glavenus at his base makes him worse because they really ruined it. They had a good start and they made a bad monster.
I think people who have played a lot of Monster Hunter will think that it's impossible for me to possibly think that Glavenus is S tier and Acidic Glavenus is D tier, but I think for me that's the case.
I think it should be like bottom of C tier at least, but I don't
look,
know.
I'm okay with that. We've got Robodon
worse
here, but
that he's native to the Rotten Vale, because the Rotten Vale, the zone is more cramped and the monsters are smaller, and it works, and because the Rotten Vale is more cramped and it's interesting, but he is bigger and he doesn't fit in the Rotten Vale, and he clips through walls constantly, and he just looks bad.
You can fight him in the Guiding Lands and in the Ancient Forest as well.
Yeah, but he's native to the Rotten Vale, and he doesn't fit in the Rotten Vale.
The first time you encounter him is in the Rotten Vale, but I think if you fight him in the Ancient Forest, it's not quite as bad of a fight. I think that first encounter might leave a bad taste in your mouth, but I think that the Rotten Vale does a disservice to a lot of monsters who aren't native to it.
This is surprisingly not native to it. Ebony Odogarin. In my personal opinion, he's just Odogarin but better. But I don't know. I don't know how you guys feel.
I'd agree with that. It's very similar to the Odogarin moveset, except he does Dragon Blight as well, and he shoots out projectiles on a more common basis. It's a decent challenge, a decent upgrade for Master Mode, but I do think that it's not a significant enough change to warrant a significantly different rating. I would put him maybe above Anjanath, or maybe even below Anjanath. I think they're very similar. I think I'd put them right next to each other. Just a hair better.
I would too.
Yeah, just put him right above Odogarin. He's just Odogarin. His moveset's slightly different, but you fight him the same way, so it doesn't really amount too much. But he's so rad.
Yeah,
he's so cool.
He's probably like top 3 coolest looking monsters in this game. Like, he's got that shadowy thing coming off of him. He's got the glowing red eyes. He's just so cool. Oh my goodness. But yeah, you know, he's neat. Alright, Velkhana.
Well.
I feel like my opinion changes on this monster every time I fight it. Like, I think the first time I fought it, I'm like, this monster's like A tier. Then I fought it again, I'm like, it's F tier. Then I fought it again, and I'm like, it's a B tier. I'm like, I don't know, man.
I think this fight is really unique and interesting. I think its moveset is cool. I think that, you know, once you get around Frostbite being annoying, the tail attack's really fun. He's really beautiful looking monster. He's got a decent health pool. He's a decent challenge. He isn't quite as annoying as Tiestra is. His Nova's a lot more manageable. I don't know. I think this fight's a pretty decent challenge. I think the one annoying aspect of it that really gets on people's nerves is the Frostbite, and perhaps maybe the fact that he creates all those walls. But I think the walls actually provide for interesting opportunities to move around in a more unique way as well.
The walls are kind of neat because you can climb on top of them and do jump attacks and stuff, which is alright.
I personally put this monster at maybe bottom of A tier, maybe top of B tier, somewhere around that area.
Ooh, interesting take. Alright, Ethan, what do you hate this monster, right?
Here's the opposite take.
This monster is horrendous. When you get over Ice Blight, let me know when you figure out that, okay? You are Ice Blighted permanently in this fight. There isn't a getting over it. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Because if you cure Ice Blight, you're still Ice Blighted. And he doesn't do anything but run away and stab you from 1,000 miles away and cover the whole area in ice. He's beyond the idea that the monsters aren't realistic and the fact that they don't attack from them. They do things that monsters can't do. He just summons ice randomly wherever he wants to. He just teleports ice cubes above you and hits you with them.
I will say
the balls do nothing. He's no fun at all. He's just irritating.
Well, I think the idea, at least, just to sort of explain that a bit, is that I think Elder Dragons sort of don't have that limitation. Like, I think that instead of it being like a biological thing, it's sort of just a magic. Cause
yeah, but it's so like far removed that it's like magic, but it's removed from it being cool because he just summons ice anywhere. You're 1,000 feet away from him, and he just creates an ice cube above you, and it hits you.
I think at this point in Master Rank, that argument doesn't hold up as much because we just got out of talking about Ebony Otogaron, who is not very realistic. He shoots.
No, he's not realistic, but at least it's stuff coming from him. Like there's a methodology in like predicting the monster and understanding it.
Yeah, I mean, Velkhana's projectiles do just spawn.
Velkhana just creates things on you. There's no predicting it. There's only reacting to it. And that's not fun. Also, I think removing parts of the monster is cool. It's really fun, especially when their moveset changes. And you can spend the whole fight cutting off his tail, and then he just gets it back.
He can
catch
grow
it once. I think it's actually a cool detail, but
it's a cool detail that doesn't mean anything because it's like, oh, it's cool that none of your effort meant anything. I'd put this monster at the bottom of D tier.
Oh, jeez.
There you go.
I think
one of the worst fights in the game that is a fight.
I don't necessarily agree. I don't think he's like an A tier monster. I don't think he's a D tier monster either, but
dude, I am fighting to keep Ethan from dumpstering half of the monsters in this game.
I don't know, man. Velkhana's okay.
I said earlier that if what's his face? Xenojiva was earlier in the game, I would have stopped playing. This monster, very late in the game, considered stop playing after I fought him.
I think
kind of.
I will say this. I will say this. I think that Velkhana, the very first time, or even couple of times you fight him, he's very annoying. I think that fight shines through a lot more once you fought him like maybe 6 or 7 times. Once you get the hang of him, I think that fight is very consistently engaging.
Yeah,
which is something that not every monster. Once you figure out some monsters, it's just autopilot. Whereas I think this monster is always very engaging and interesting to fight after you get used to their moveset. But they're quite the difficulty spike at the time when you fight them.
That's true for a lot of monsters.
I've fought him 6 or 7 times. You have to. There's not a way around it. If you want to have gear worth having, his gear is so good, so you can't not. Especially for the weapons I had, it didn't make it any better.
I think most of the time with Monster Hunter though, if it's like the first time you fight him, it's really hard. Then you learn how to fight him, and then it's fun. Like, I think those are usually, like, the best monsters. And Velkhana kind of falls under that, but I still think even when you know how to fight him, he still has, like, a lot of projectiles that are kind of annoying and ice plates you all the time. So I don't think I can put him in A. I like him more than Icy Legiana.
I think he's just Icy Legiana, but worse, actually.
I think he's significantly different than Icy Legiana.
I think he's Icy Legiana, but more interesting. Because Icy Legiana is just annoying and not fun. Or he doesn't even have any redeeming qualities, I don't think. But, like,
I think they should have just put Icy Legiana. They should just give an Icy Legiana, like, vaguely his model and just have that be the fight.
You know?
And then taking him off the box art of the game.
Oh my god. Look, alright.
Like, someone better on
I'm just gonna stop talking about Velkhana, because I don't think we're gonna get anywhere with him for now. Yeah. Seething Goose is really pretty. Where did we put Normal Goose? In A tier? I think he's cooler than Normal Goose, at least.
I think Seething Goose is just Ebony Otogaron to Goose.
Yeah.
He's The fight isn't terribly different.
But in the ways that it is, it's more interesting.
Yeah, it's you don't have to fight it too differently. It's kind of just the same, but the spectacle is so much better. He's so pretty, and the bombs when he goes into like his rainbow mode, the bombs are so pretty. But I mean, it sort of amounts to being the same. So I think he's kind of just a bit better.
He's a little different, but not much. But he's cooler, so I think it's fair to put him where he is. Alright. Chainsaw Breath, Devil Ho.
I think that this fight, I found it manageable with a bow and with Insect Glaive, and I can tell that with any other weapon, this fight is horrible. This fight, you just can't get close to the monster. He just creates these giant clouds that you have to be running away from at all times. I don't understand how you're supposed to fight him with anything that isn't ranged or has a massive amount of mobility, or both, preferably.
It's not that bad, actually.
Really?
I think this monster's I think this monster is similar to Ebony Odogaron to Odogaron and Thieving Betelgeuse to normal Betelgeuse, but he's actually just a bit more of a difference. He's more exciting. I think
he's worse.
I think he's worse too. Just because
he looks cooler, he's more fun to fight.
He does look
cooler. Constantly, which means that you can't use any elemental weapons decently. He creates giant AoE clouds that are really hard to like get out of the way of, and they always blight you.
You can block the clouds.
You can block the clouds.
I think the allure of the original Devil Ho was just the fact that he's just one of the biggest monsters, and just his like giant maw, and like the fact that he has that raw power, kind of the same reason you appreciate Tigrex a lot, but I think more so because of how tall he stands, even if he looks a little weird. I think Savage Devil Ho turning into this weird like smoke cannon machine makes him less interesting and a less specific fight, randomly giving him this ability to use this constantly. I would put him in like C tier, probably below Tiestra.
I'd put him just above Dodogama.
I would at minimum put him here, because I'm not a huge fan of Joe, and I'm less of a fan of Savage Joe. But I don't know, man. I guess a C tier and a B tier leads me to believe he should be somewhere here, so I'll put him here for right now. Black Veil Valhazak is kind of weird for me, actually, because I think he's in some ways more interesting and more cool than Valhazak, and in some ways worse and more AIDS.
I agree. I think Black Veil is my favorite Elder Dragon. He's really cool. But I think this fight is just better than normal Valhazak, except for
the clouds.
Except for his Nova. Yeah. His Nova is so lame. He just creates invisible kill boxes that you can't see at all unless you have like an orbital view of the battlefield.
Quick question.
They just
like
kill you
more?
instantly.
You like this game more than Nergigante?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I think that this fight is kind of just a more annoying version of
Is
normal
Nergigante an Elder Dragon, though? I know he eats Elder Dragons, but I'm not sure.
No, he's not.
He is. Yes, he is.
Is he?
Well,
yes, he is.
Doesn't drop Elder Dragon stuff, though.
Someone can check.
He's an Elder Dragon.
But...
doesn't drop Elder Dragon stuff, though.
Nergigante is a genderless Elder Dragon.
Cool.
Oh. Okay.
But I don't know. How do you feel, Matt? Do you think he's better or worse than Valhazak?
I think he's worse than Valhazak by actually a fair amount. I think Everything else about his design is super cool, but his Nova attack, where he just has invisible death clouds everywhere,
His Nova attack is bad enough.
way
I'm
too
willing to
vague
agree with it.
for any character to understand, especially if it's inside of his home environment. It's way too vague for any character to understand what the hell is going on, where the damage is coming from. You just randomly die, you don't even realize it. It's really annoying. I think this is a fight that they improved in every other way except for the Nova, and the fact that they made the Nova so poor significantly decreases the value of this fight. It's like,
I mean, I agree
2
with
steps
that.
forward and like 5 steps back. I think putting him at the top of C tier, maybe actually, I wouldn't even put him like, I put him below like Diablos personally. I'm really not a huge fan of this fight.
Whew. Below Diablos. Whew. Look, I hate the Nova. I don't hate it that much. I don't hate it more than I hate a Diablos being there. Imagine fighting him, but he spawns a Diablos. Oh my goodness. Oh.
I don't know. I think his Nova spawning at Diablos might be better. His Nova's really bad. I've had perfect runs of Valhazak, Black Veil, because I fought that monster a lot, and perfect runs, and then 3 people die instantly to his Nova, and the fight's over.
Yeah. It's really annoying joining like an online lobby with this guy, and then people just randomly die, and they're like, oh, I didn't even know that I was dying. And then you lose.
Yeah, you don't know that you're dying. It's really, really bad.
So, I don't know. You said by Diablos? I gotta put him
a
like
bit
here,
above
maybe.
that, but not much. I think that's fine. It's so sad. If they removed his Nova, I'd put him. If they just took the Nova away, I think he's an A tier monster.
I think even if he had the Nova and they just like nerfed it a bit and made it more visible, then I'd put him in A tier as well. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they could adjust it and make it fine too, but I don't think he's placed wrong.
Namiel, alright. Anyone gonna deny me this? Anyone gonna say I'm wrong?
I'm not gonna say you're wrong for the tier.
He's an Elder Dragon, right?
He is an Elder Dragon.
Yep.
I'm not gonna say you're wrong for the tier. I am gonna say that you're wrong for the position in the tier.
Fine.
I think that this is, I mean, we can all talk about why this monster is fantastic. Its design is beautiful. It's really unique. It's got both the water thing and the lightning thing. It's got a really cool like design with its attacks. Its Nova's really iconic and interesting. I just think that the water blight, once again, stamina draining mechanics are really annoying, and certain attacks of him when he's doing a bunch of his like water pushing and pulling kind of just interrupt the fight and don't really contribute much to it. I would put him at like below Glavenus. I do think this is one of the best fights in the game. I just don't think it's quite as good as Glavenus from Gigante.
Ethan?
This monster's so good. I'd leave him there. He's so cool. The Water Blight I don't think is that bad in this fight. He does Water Blight a lot, but I think the fight is sort of paced well, where there's very good positions of high action and non-action, so that you have the opportunities to get rid of it fairly easily. And especially if you know the fight well, the Nova is so cool, and it's not most of the Novas are really cool, but they feel unfair. But this one just really doesn't.
Yeah,
because it decharges him in a meaning. All the Novas like technically decharge the Elder Dragon, and it never means anything. And in this one, it actually is meaningful.
Yeah, it changes his resistances and stuff. It's nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
I think...
And it doesn't do an outrageously unfair amount of damage, because most of the Novas are, you have to know they're coming, react to them, or you die. This one
if you're standing in water, it can one-shot you, because
it can, but its
mechanics work. But you can
it generally
play
doesn't, so it feels fair.
Yeah, I think it's testament to how well this creature's designed that it has Water Blight and Thunder Blight on its kit, and I don't hate it. I actually think they're implemented in a way that I think it's fair. If I get Water Blighted by this guy, I'm like, oh, I guess I deserve that. If I get like water blighted by like Coral Puke, I'm just like, oh, this is annoying. But if I get water blighted by Namiel, I'm like, it's a part of the fight.
I think his like
that's how I feel
current
too.
pull and push moves and like the big one where he has like all the debris in the water and it like splashes at you.
I love
I think
that.
those two moves are a little annoying, but I definitely think this is one of the best fights in the game. I'm not gonna argue if you want to put him at top of S tier.
I'm gonna keep him there for now. All right, Charge Valda. We were talking about Xeno'jiiva before, right?
Yeah, this is the better version of Xeno'jiiva, with the caveat that the first phase is really annoying and doesn't contribute to the fight at all. I really wish that on repeat playthroughs,
the first phase exists.
Yeah, and repeat playthroughs, if you could skip the first phase, this fight would be, I think, easily like A tier. I think because the first phase is mandatory and you have to go through it every time you fight this monster, it just slows things down for no reason. I unfortunately think it's like B tier. But I think that this is like the best version of like a big monster fight. God, when he uses his giant spirit bomb that he charges up and launches into the field, all of his attacks feel so forceful, but they're very weird and unique. He very much feels like a design that you don't see other places. Chargeval is a weird monster, but it works in the context. And then when he like hits the ground and all the mountains reform around you, this fight's really cool. I do think that learning it was quite troublesome. And it took us a lot of tries.
Huge
like this was a
learning
difficult
curve.
fight. But once you got the hang of it, this fight was really engaging. I would say if you could skip the first phase, it would be like top of A tier. Because you can't, I would put it like maybe top of B tier.
What do you think, Ethan? How do you feel about Chargevalda?
Chargevalda is the apex of this entire game.
All right.
I would put this monster in S tier.
Okay, good. Then I'm happy keeping him where he is. On the basis of, I think his first phase at first was really annoying and really slow, but I'm a Gunlance main, and I really like doing damage to things that resist damage, because they don't resist my damage. I just do the damage anyway. I love playing the first phase with a Gunlance, because you just lay into him. You blow him up so many times. You see those damage numbers. It's ecstasy, man. And the second phase, it was such a huge learning curve, though. Like, this took us so long to beat for the first time, but afterwards, I loved this fight so much.
I think this is such a good fight because it took us so long to beat. And then I went back and fought it a few times, and it was really easy.
Yeah, it's
but
crazy.
It just was so much. It didn't feel like we were learning that much when we fought him. Just kind of felt like we were fighting him and doing a bit better. But I could really feel it afterwards, and it just felt like a perfect. I think Xeno'jiiva really detracted from the game having to fight it. This felt like a perfect final boss. It was just so good.
I agree. Also, this is one of those situations where now that this monster is here, I am looking at Fulguranja and I'm like, all right, it's your time, buddy. You know, he had a good run in S tier for a little bit, but
I think that's okay.
Normal Zenogre. I think I might have fought Normal Zenogre twice.
This fight's really cool. He's a classic Monster Hunter monster, but they actually ported him over in a way where he doesn't feel super janky to fight against. His moves are super dynamic, he's super threatening, he's really cool looking, but his lightning is worked into his kit, even though it's like, oh, these projectiles are disjointed from him, it's worked into like his lore and his biology in a way where it actually makes sense.
Also on that note,
which was a problem that
I think it's interesting to take note of that him and Kieran are both in the game, and I think Kieran is ass, and I think Zenogre is not ass.
Yes. Well, one of the big things is that Zenogre is not only spamming lightning attacks, he also attacks you with his physical claws and tail and horn, and also Zenogre is a size to which you are not tripping over your friends and doesn't move around so much that you can't hit him. This is a fantastic fight. I'm kind of sad you can't fight him until you get to the Guiding Lands, because he's kind of irrelevant by the time you get to the Guiding Lands.
Yeah,
but
he's
frankly,
a little underpowered.
I think this is an A tier fight easily. I think this is above Odegarin and Ebony Odegarin. It'd be between those two and Anja. is where I would put this. This is one of my favorite fights for sure.
If we're putting him there, then I'm gonna have some words about Stygian when we get there, but I don't know. Ethan, how do you feel about Zenogre?
Zenogre's really cool. I agree with Matt.
Okay, I think he's cool too. But to put him here means the fate of Stygian is an interesting one. Monkey, just default normal monkey.
I don't think it is. I think it's very clear to me. This is difficult for me because I feel like this, like the monkey, Rajang. It's hard to judge Rajang in a vacuum compared to Furious Rajang.
It is, especially because like, technically Rajang did come out like a decent amount before Furious Rajang, right? But yeah, by the time we played this game, we fought them both at essentially the same time, so it...
Before we rate this monster, can I get a ballpark on what you guys think is better between normal Rajang and Furious Rajang? Because it's honestly difficult for me to separate them and remember which one I thought was better.
Ethan, what's your thoughts?
I personally believe this fight is amazing. It's so cool. It's so threatening. It's such a departure from all the monsters. And it's like as small as Kirin, but it feels good to fight.
Yeah.
It's about as big as Great Jagras, I think. But yeah, it is
even once you have like conquered this fight and are pretty good at it, there is no point where I am not afraid of either Rajang or Furious Rajang.
Which of the two do you think is better, though?
I think Furious Rajang is slightly better, but I
feel that way as well.
I think it's only slight. I feel about them similar to Odogaron and Ebony Odogaron.
No, I agree with that.
I think that this... I will say, I'll give it one caveat. I think for, like, very slow weapons like Greatsword, I feel like this fight is a breaking point for some of the mechanics of the game for some of those players. I can see where it is getting to the point in these fights where it feels like the baseline Monster Hunter mechanics are not meant to fight a monster this intimidating. Now, to be fair, that adds to the amount of fear and, like, you know, how scary the fight is and how to control the fight feels from your hands. And in some ways that can be good, but I do think that it goes a little far. I personally think this is a great monster, but I don't think I would put it higher than Odogaron. I think I would put it probably below a Basilgeuse.
I don't know how you play Greatsword past Great Jagras.
I don't know how you play Gunlance past Great Jagras, but here we are, to be honest. This is one of those monsters...
I don't know how you play Gunlance past Great Jagras.
Where I don't like to fight him. Like, whenever I see him, I'm like, oh no. Because I've got a Gunlance, I can't hit him. But even though I don't like to fight him, and I don't want to fight him, and I don't really like him, for some reason every time he shows up on screen, I get excited, and I start getting hype. And I'm like, oh my god, it's the monkey. He's here to deliver his reckoning upon us all. And I can't explain that feeling. I don't understand it, but
I get that more from Furious Rajang than Normal Rajang. Normal Rajang, I think...
Furious Rajang is more in that regard, but it's definitely
because it just has
like...
more spectacle, and I'm more terrified of Furious Rajang. Which, you know...
I mean, he's more terrifying.
I'm gonna put
I think the difference between those two is significant enough.
And I'm gonna put Furious Rajang in A tier somewhere.
I'd put him at the top of A.
Normal Rajang or Furious Rajang, Ethan?
Put normal Rajang at the top of A, and then I'd just slot Furious Rajang right above him.
I would put normal Rajang at the bottom of A. I don't think normal Rajang should be at the top of B. I think it's better than Raytheon and Tigrex and Dodogama by a significant margin. I think I would put it below Basilgeuse.
There's not a monster in A tier that I think is
that's fine.
More interesting or more exciting than Rajang.
Furious Rajang, I think,
isn't that like your favorite fight?
What?
What about Schwarzwalde? Isn't that your favorite fight?
Oh.
I mean, I said Schwarzwalde should be an ass, but I guess...
Alright.
I don't know.
Award for most forgettable relevant monster in Monster Hunter World?
Scarred Yon Garuga, but also Yon Garuga. Yeah, this is a heavy C tier monster. I honestly think it should be higher than that.
No.
In C tier. I don't think it should be
yeah,
the bottom of C tier, but
at least not at hindrance like aesthetic bonus. You might not have.
I think the most forgettable monster in this game actually isn't on this list.
He's probably
the pterodactyl in the guiding lands.
That is this monster.
Here. Is that this monster?
That's this monster.
Yon Garuga is the pterodactyl. That's the most forgettable one. The one that does a little fire breath. It's like mini Rathalos or Raytheon.
It's literally just Raytheon, but worse. Yeah, it's this thing.
Oh, that's this. Oh. But Yon Garuga doesn't fly, right?
The most forgettable monster isn't this monster. No, it flies. It flies. It does a dive bomb attack where it sticks its beak in the ground and it gets stuck a little bit.
Normal Yon Garuga doesn't shoot fire, though, right?
It does. It shoots little fireballs.
Oh.
It doesn't do it nearly as much as like Rathalos or Raytheon. This monster should have been like a high rank monster, and even then it would have been bad.
Bro, this should have been a low rank monster. You should have fought this before Raytheon. This monster sucks.
This monster
it's a little too fast to be fighting before Raytheon, but I do think it is like definitely not like a master rank monster. I think that where you've got it is fine. I think you can put Scarred Yon Garuga right below it as well, because it's just the exact same fight, but
it's the same but more forgettable.
Clink. Yeah, your weapons clink. It's more annoying. Yeah, they're almost identical.
Like, I don't even want to talk about them, which is why I skipped ahead to slot them in. Gold Raytheon, right? Gold Raytheon?
Yeah, Gold Raytheon. This is the big Raytheon.
This is one of the coolest monsters
here for now.
I think this is easily above Pink Raytheon. I would put this maybe in like right below Fulgur.
Yeah, probably. I'm just moving him here while we talk about Gold Raytheon.
Yeah. I think that this fight it focuses on the things that make the Raytheon fight fun, and it almost completely removes like the annoying like poison tail spam. They make him way bigger. They make him way more threatening. His fire breath is awesome. The spectacle of it is fantastic. It's just everything I liked about Raytheon and nothing I disliked about Raytheon. They get rid of all the bad parts, so I would put this at like.
It does have Giga Toxic, which is something, but it's also like really fun.
It also doesn't use its tail attacks as much, as far as I could tell.
It's aggressive enough and like interesting enough to where I just think it's really fun. I don't know. Fighting this monster is very fun. I probably like here.
That's fair. I think it's about as good as Anja.
Is everything I've ever wanted from Monster Hunter, and I would put it just above Glavinus.
You know, I do not fault you for that opinion. I think this monster is very good. However, secondarily, this is a weird one. Silver Rathalos.
Really bad.
When we first fought Gold Raytheon, it took us a couple tries. It was kind of hard. It was really fun. It was a really interesting kit. When we first fought Silver Rathalos, we two-shot it and it died. And we were like, what? Then we fought it again and we two-shot it and it died. And it was like, oh, it just sucks.
And it's not like we fought Gold Raytheon and then fought Silver Rathalos like 1,000 years later. We fought him right after we fought Gold Raytheon.
Yeah, this monster he's just bad. It's depressing how bad he is.
I think they forgot to scale up his stats or give him moves. He's just normal, like high rank Raytheon or Rathalos, but they made him smaller and put him in master.
He's the opposite of Blue Rathalos in the sense to where instead of flying more, he flies less, and he's smaller than normal Rathalos and sucks.
He basically starts a fight with a shovel digging his own grave.
In my opinion, Blue Rathalos is an improvement on Rathalos, and I think Silver Rathalos is a less good than normal Rathalos, but you've already put Blue Rathalos or Zur Rathalos in C tier. So I would say, given that, I would probably put this monster like below like Acidical Venice. I wouldn't maybe. I don't think he's D tier, but he is. What a letdown! This monster could have been so cool.
Yeah, he doesn't do anything.
I think in a vacuum, I wouldn't put him so low.
Yeah,
But because he shows up so late and is such a disappointment, yeah, I'd put him that low. I'd put him like just above Xeno'jiiva.
I think the thought process is that because the idea is you're supposed to fight Gold Rathian and Silver Rathalos together, they didn't want to make it so that Silver Rathalos was so powerful that that fight was impossible. But they could have just like not enforced that. I don't know. It doesn't work.
Yeah, but Gold Rathian is that powerful. Gold Rathian is terrifying.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm saying just to make that fight doable, because Gold Rathian is already so powerful, they decided to make Silver Rathalos like bad. I'm not sure. It's very odd to me either way.
Brute Tigrex is kind of just Tigrex, but this time he does have gimmicks, but his gimmicks are kind of bad and never come into play.
His gimmicks come into play constantly. He just does chip damage at you from yelling into the air. It's a hitbox that's unavoidable. I think this fight is just Tigrex, but worse. I do not like this fight.
I think it's Tigrex, but worse as well.
I would put this in D tier if it were me. I mean, I already
don't
said
think
I
the
would put
fight
Tigrex
is
in D
that
tier.
bad, but I think he is just Tigrex. He has this cool yell move that looks cool, but it isn't very interesting to play again. And his rocks aren't as fun. He's just kind of weird.
Rocks like fire blight you and ice blight you and stuff, which is like okay.
Well, yeah, it gives you a blight based off of where he is, which is kind of interesting.
Doesn't every Tigrex do that?
Conceptually.
I don't know.
I don't think normal Tigrex
just
does it. I think normal Tigrex just shoots rocks. But I don't know. It's not interesting. He's not as good.
I think also just he uses that yell so much, and it dissuades anybody from being aggressive into him to the point where it removes any sort of like play against this monster besides very like defensive shieldy counterplay type play styles. I don't think he's very fun to fight.
I think the tier's like a good place to put him, like around Diablos.
I think he's worse than Diablos, but you know, if he's below Diablos, that's fair, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
Ruiner Nergigante.
I only fought this monster once.
I've fought it like 5 times. I really like this monster.
I don't know, he's kind of just Nergigante. He occasionally shoots spikes, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, but he does it more. He does it a good amount more. And I think he has a lot more spike moves.
Yeah, he's sort of just Nergigante, but they buffed all his numbers and made his moveset a little more versatile. He's not very different. In my opinion, he's just here.
Yeah, whatever.
Sure.
He just feels...
There's not a lot to say. That monster feels identical to me. I honestly couldn't tell you the difference.
I mean, they definitely changed him a bit because all the monsters feel better in Master Rank. And he kind of just feels like he felt when you fought him the first time. So he's a bit different, but he's kind of just updated.
Yeah, he's cool. Like, this is a really fun fight to just, like, goof around and fight with, like, 4 people online, just cause, like, I don't know, it feels good, you know? Feels like Monster Hunter.
You can still hit him in the face with a hammer.
Alright, okay. Frostfang Barioth.
Here comes the S tiers.
Here we go.
Here comes the S tiers. Let's go. Frostfang Barioth is everything I said Barioth was. I think it's very similar to Barioth. It has a couple of additional moves, but yeah, both those fights are fantastic. If you want to put it in S tier, that's where I put it in normal Barioth already, so I'm fine with you.
Apparently this monster, like, a hard skill gapped a ton of players that were playing Iceborne. And I understand that. This monster is not easy, but, like...
It's not easy, but I think there are other monsters that are significantly bigger skill gap, like Sharshvalda, or the one best updated monster that we'll talk about later. But
yeah, Frostfang's great. Do you like Frostfang, Ethan?
I kind of. He's better in some ways, but he has that move. He has his sticky ice that's really lame, and it just kills. You can just play him, be having a ton of fun, play against him well, and get hit by one move poorly, and he kills you.
That's true.
I think that threat kind of makes me like the fight more in
Yeah,
some
but
ways.
there's not really a way to play around it.
Yeah, kind of.
You have to save it within the V, and then just either perfect dodge or parry whatever his jump attack or shot is going to be next.
You can't parry it. You can't block it.
Not the sticky ice, because he creates a sticky ice in like a V shape. You have to be in the middle of the V.
Yeah,
essentially.
No, he has
and
more
then
than one move that
you
does
have
it.
to parry or block.
He has more than one move that creates the sticky ice, and you can't block it. It's a move that really should be blockable, and you can't block it. You can't even block it with the "you can block things you can't block" gem.
I think this is one of the best moves
I
fights in the game.
Yeah, I really
I
like
think
this fight.
I would agree with you guys if there was a way to counter that sticky eye. If you could at least build like a gem.
There is a gem. It's the one that lets you walk through deep snow.
That doesn't help you.
I'm pretty sure it does.
No, it doesn't. Believe me, I tested it and I checked and I looked it up and because I fought this monster a lot on my own and I couldn't beat it on my own just because of that one move. Because I'd just be winning and be playing fine, and then he'd use that and he'd one-shot me every time.
Fighting this monster
no gem helps.
Is one of the most engaging fights in the entire game. I love this fight. I would put this monster at top of S tier, honestly.
I can't fight this monster with a gun lance because he's just never in range, and I still think it's one of the best fights in the game.
I just can't fight. I couldn't fight this monster.
Longsword, oh my god.
I couldn't fight this monster
sick against this guy.
Any of my weapons. It just felt very gating, very like you just aren't allowed to beat this monster because of the weapons you're using.
Yeah. Furious Rajang. Where did I put normal Rajang? He's somewhere around here. I put him in A tier.
He's in A tier. Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna put Furious Rajang like here.
I actually agree with that. I don't think Furious Rajang is quite the S tier fight, just because I think like he has the same problems that normal Rajang does, where he kind of gates some people out of being able to fight him reasonably. He's a little
really
bit too
cool,
fast
though.
where he starts breaking the mechanics. But just the pure spectacle and like raw fear you have when fighting this thing, you really feel out of your zone, and it really leaves an impact. And just seeing him like go up against like Devil Ho or Savage Devil Ho and just like rip that thing to shreds, this tiny little monkey has so much anger in him. I say tiny, he's still the size of like a pickup truck, but
Yeah.
he's not the size of like the tanker ships that he takes out. This monkey is very terrifying. He's got a couple of moves that kind of annoy me, and the fact that his armor is hard to break through in certain, like if you hit his hindquarters, is a little annoying. But I think ultimately the spectacle of this fight, and I think a lot of Monster Hunter is carried by spectacle. It carries it up to like top of A tier. I think it's reasonable to put it there.
Yeah, it's just so hype to be killed by this monster. Like, I can't say that about a lot of fights in this game. Like, if you die, you're like, oh crap, I died. But if Rajang like cannonballs into you 80 times and shoots a hyper beam at you and you die, you're just kind of like Pog.
Yeah, there's a lot of fights where it feels unfair. You die to nonsense. Even if it's like semi-reasonable, you could avoid it. It just doesn't. It's not very. I mean, dying isn't fun. But every time I died at Furious Rajang, I'm like, yeah, he deserved it.
Yeah, I feel that way too. It's just like like this thing should be killing me. Look at it.
It feels like I'm playing like PvP in like a Souls game or something, and I just lost to someone who was better than me.
No.
They just fought me and they were just better than me.
Alright. Boy.
That's an A tier fight. Yeah. This is probably the coolest looking monster in the entire game.
This is an S tier fight.
That's what I meant. I meant to say S tier, yeah.
Normal's an ogre. I would have put lower and probably put Stygian at the top of A, but just based off of placements, I think he should go here.
No, I think this is reasonable. This is everything that made normal as an ogre cool with just oozing style. I love this monster's design. It's so
much
awesome.
Personality, man.
It's so threatening as it just like walks towards you and these red arcs of lightning strike around it. Ugh.
Also, stealing its fireflies is funny.
Yeah, this is like right next to Frostring very often.
I wish he was earlier.
Best fights in the game.
Yeah, I kind of do. He's so late that you don't get to fight him that much by the end of the game. I mean, unless you just grind endgame fights for fun, which, to be fair, you're totally valid in doing. But yeah, this fight's awesome.
Yeah, he's really cool. But, I mean, also his gear is, like, alright, but I would have really liked to use it. It would be a really good gear set to use in mid-master rank.
Yeah, it would be.
And he's so much fun, and I think he isn't hard enough where he couldn't have been in mid-master rank. And yeah, I mean, I agree with everything else you guys said. He's just the coolest monster in the game.
Yeah, he's rad as hell.
And all of his moves feel exciting and intimidating. This is the best monster in the game.
This is the best monster they have ever designed.
How they took Brachiotos is so irritating. He moves around. He has too much health. He's not exciting enough. And this is just they just take all of that and do it more, and it works. He has way too much health. He moves way too much. He covers the whole map in explosions. This is he's not a boss monster.
No,
he doesn't really.
He does have that second phase thing, so he is kind of a boss.
This is the real final boss of the game. If if they said this is the final boss and threw it up here, this game is like the best game ever. It's just so much fun. Everything he does is so cool and so terrifying.
Yeah.
For context, this was a fight we were stuck on for, I think, by far the longest out of any fight.
Schwarzwalder might be close. We were stuck on Schwarzwalder.
Schwarzwalder we tried a lot, but I think this one stuck into me, especially for me because I felt like, at least personally, like I had a handle on Schwarzwalder. We just made a couple of dumb mistakes. I felt like every time we fought this monster, up until the moment we beat it, I was just out of my league and I wasn't a good enough player. And we just kept grinding attempts at it and just kept on getting better and better and better. And finally, when we thought, okay, we have it on the ropes, we're about to take it out, it brings us into a cavern and it punches the world in half. Dear God, what an attack.
And also the music that plays when he does that, oh, it goes insane, dude.
That move, where he goes into quote-unquote second phase, is, I think, the coolest move I've seen in any video game.
He's so cool.
And
it's up there.
This guy, normally losing to a boss in like any game 1,000 times is very disheartening. It wasn't. It just made me want to play the game more. It was just so much fun, especially because I think it's even more of a testament because a lot of times in Monster Hunter you can do a fight, you're losing, it doesn't feel good, and then you're like, okay, I have to step back, get better gear, or get gear that helps me in this fight. And we got to that, and we were at a loss. We were really like, we're losing, and I don't know what we need to do to get better. I don't know the gear we need to do better. We're kind of there. There wasn't really any. It was like kind of the gear we need to beat this monster is the gear we get from this monster, and it still wasn't disheartening.
Yeah, Raging Bracky was the monster in the game for me, to where I almost just like stopped playing just because I lost like so handedly to it that I was just like, I'm just not good enough. Like, I can't be good enough at this game to beat this monster. I just don't have the skill. It's not possible. I mean, eventually we won and beat it, so that was not true. And I put it at the top of S tier, so something happened there. but holy moly, dude, it's so good.
When we beat this monster, this is when I had some like epiphany moment. I'm like, maybe Monster Hunter World is the best game I've ever played.
Yeah, maybe.
And
then the game continued.
Hey, look, it's the last 5 monsters. Okay, I'm gonna caveat this. I think high rank Kolveteroth is kind of cool.
Can I just give my opinion on all of these monsters and then just tap out and you guys can actually talk about them?
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't want to. I feel the same way about all of them.
Sure.
And I came out of Furious Zhang. We did other stuff, or not Furious Zhang. Sorry, Raging Bracky, and I felt like we did a number of monsters after Raging Bracky, actually. So it wasn't like the last big thing in the game that we did, but I was coming out of it, this is like the best game ever, and we did these last few fights a good amount afterwards, and none of them are fun. They're all just irritating mechanics, in my opinion. The monsters aren't fun. They all force you to do something. It feels like you don't have any agency about how you should be building, what you should be doing. It's just, you do the fight this way, or you don't do the fight. And it's such a big difficulty spike with nothing else to do. And I don't feel like it's worth it. It's like not fun. All of them. And it made me question. I came out of it, thought this was the best game ever, and after fighting all these monsters, I was like, I don't even know if I like this game anymore. And I'd put all of these monsters in F tier.
One of these things is not like the other. One of these things doesn't belong,
that
but he goes right here.
Yeah, that speech doesn't pertain to Ancient Leshen, but he's in F tier because he's just Leshen, but they made him more irritating.
I will say, at least you don't have to fight him playing as Geralt.
That's why I put him 1 above, because you can just outgear him with your own character and beat him.
This fight is not what Monster Hunter is about. You know,
it's
the
bad.
Aesthetics of it, like the visuals of it, it's cool. No one wants to fight this. This is stupid and lame. I'm glad that it's
but you know,
very optional.
The Witcher dual sword and shield set's kind of cool, I guess. So there's that. But yeah, this fight's terrible.
Yeah. We can just put that there and move on.
Okay, now you guys can have the real conversation.
All right, so Kolveteroth, at least high rank Kolveteroth, I think is a lot of fun. But there's no reason to do it.
The chase sequence is a little annoying, but I do think that once you get past the chase sequence, that fight becomes very entertaining. It feels like it's a really big fight, and it's the scale of which I think like a good actual like mid-game boss could have been at. Like instead of having
like
what's the name of that guy? No, not Xeno'jiva, the big mountain guy.
His name? What is your name?
How have I
Zora Magdaros.
Zora Magdaros.
Instead of having Zora Magdaros be that big, if Zora Magdaros was like that size and fought the way Kolveteroth did, I think that would be a reasonable, like, very big fight that still felt very engaging.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of roughly where I'm at with this. I do think it is probably a little too gimmicky to put too high, and I think like it's got the same problems that Tiestra has with like the DOT, except maybe a little bit worse. But it makes up for it in scale. So I would probably put it like high C tier, maybe below Shrieking Legiana.
I mean, I don't know. Like in Master Rank, it has like a different moveset at the end. It's a lot like crazier and more impressive. But Kolveteroth and Safi Jiva have the same sort of thing going on, to where they have these raids in Monster Hunter World, which I'm sure if you've watched this far and you care about Monster Hunter World, you know what this is. But, like, they're designed, essentially, for you to fight them, like, 10 times and before you actually beat them, which makes it just not very fun. Because, like, I don't know, like, having to go through the phases again, it's just not very interesting. Having to whittle them down is not very good. And then you get random gear at the end. You don't get stuff to craft gear, so you get random gear. So if you don't get the gear that you wanted from it, you go again, and then you go again. And you need to farm it anyway for the upgrade materials for that gear. But it's just... It did kind of put in an endgame cycle to a game that maybe needed it, but endgame, like, MMO grind cycles are not things that I enjoy that much, and I really like MMOs, so I can't, in good faith, like, the Kolvateroth fight in its own is pretty cool, but just the whole raid thing, especially an endgame, when you have to farm Safi'jiiva and Kolvateroth to beat Elatrion, like, you don't have a choice, right? It's just, it's not, it just doesn't do it for me.
I agree. It's, it feels a little bit of a loss. I do think, however, my opinion is different between Kolvateroth and Safi'jiiva. I think Safi'jiiva is a much more entertaining fight, and it feels a lot better for Master Rank than Kolvateroth does, personally. It skips past the phase where you have to chase after it and run around, and it gets annoying and doing all that stuff, and you're not as on strict of a time limit. Whereas Safi'jiiva, you're just fighting it the whole time. It's got some moves that are, frankly, a little bit too ridiculous, but I think ultimately, and the having to focus specific parts is a little bit frustrating, especially for some players, but I think ultimately, Safi'jiiva lets you fight the monster. Kolvateroth, half the time you're running after it, its moves are more annoying.
Yeah, so you do have to get through 2 phases to actually fight Kolvateroth, which I think its last fight is a good fight. But, like, if I separate it from the raid mechanic, which is kind of impossible to do considering that's how I played the game, I'd say this is probably like a B tier, maybe even an A tier fight. But, because you have to just spam fight it, and it's annoying to, like, chase around, I can't. I can't.
No, I think it's C tier. I think it's because of the way that the raid mechanic works. I think it's C tier. I would put it below, like,
maybe.
I think that's reasonable. I think Safi'jiiva, on the other hand, is like at least B tier.
Safi'jiiva is really cool. Once again, this is a monster I think I'd put in S tier if it wasn't designed around a garbage endgame mechanic that you have to grind for. Because I think this fight's sick as hell. I think its presentation's cool. I think its moveset's cool. I just think it's a cool monster. But having to go back and whittle away at it 50 times while it heals, and then you chase it down, and it heals, and you chase it down, and then you get random gear, it's just... I
think the one caveat to that statement is that I think the mechanic where at the end of the game where, you know, it shoots that big Nova attack that hits the entire arena, and if you're not behind cover it kills you, they don't explain at all how to create more cover in the game. That's in the final arena, and once he does it once, the terrain doesn't regenerate unless if you do certain actions. I think that is a big failure of this monster, and they should have just had that terrain either last longer or be created by more of his moves instead of just ones you have to specifically bait out. So because of that, I do think that this monster is hurt a little bit by that, but I think every other aspect of this monster is just held back by the raid design, in which case I would, if without that, I would put it maybe like high A tier, but I think with that, it's like a B tier monster.
I'd put him like...
maybe above Aragon?
Yeah, probably. Which it feels kind of wrong putting him so low, but the game did this, not me. Blame the game. Elatrion fucking sucks. Fuck you. All right.
This fight is
you're
already
not worse than the Leshen, but you're close.
This fight is already lame before you input the mechanics. A spectacle is good. Like all of the endgame fights, spectacle is good.
It looks cool. That's where it ends.
Not only are the mechanics of the fight dreadful, that you are forced into certain elemental weapons and playstyles, and if you don't have access to those, you don't have build for those, you have to grind up for those specifically. There's not a lot of flexibility on how you can tackle the monster. It puts you on a hard time limit, and not only a time limit, but a DPS cap, where if you don't match a certain DPS on certain parts of the monster within a period of time, you just lose the hunt, and there's nothing you can do about it. That's an awful mechanic. I love this game because it lets you tackle these monsters in a variety of ways. You can take them slow. Once you get better,
Yeah, you can with a Latreon. Hope you brought a fire or an ice weapon with perfect gear for it.
Or
Otherwise, you
dragon.
lose.
And it's dreadful. And this monster should not. Even without that, I think this monster's moveset isn't very engaging. I think its moveset is frustrating, and it's not very fun.
It has
on top of that, it has
yeah.
the worst mechanics in the game.
Not only are its mechanics bad, but its moveset is mid.
Yeah,
like
I think it's even below mid. I think this moveset is awful and annoying to fight as well.
Yeah, it's not very good. All right, and here's cope time. Because
none of us fought this one.
We wound up not farming enough Kolvateroth and Safi Jiva to get past Elytrion. So we didn't fight this. So I can't in good faith put it anywhere. I'm sorry.
Maybe someday we'll come back to it and maybe update, but for now, I don't think we just leave it untiered. There's no place to put it.
Yeah, I can't take it off, so he's here. Here, I can go, what did I do?
Yeah, make a new Elytrion tier.
Yeah, make a new Elytrion tier.
Or not Elytrion, Fatalis tier.
yeah. A row below.
I do think that Ethan has a point, though, where I think ultimately, my opinion is shared, where I think the game is the best it ever gets at Raging Brachiodos, and I don't think that it would have been good if the game ended at that point. I think the additional post-game additions are generally just added for people who were dedicated to the game for years after its final release and just wanted to have an incredibly hard challenge to grind away at, but it's not reasonable to include that in the general progression curve of the average player.
Also, can I just like get a pet peeve off my chest right now? Sure. Everyone in the damn Monster Hunter community goes out here in every single build guide in the entire game. They're like, all right, use the True Fatalis set on your build. He is the last boss. What am I using it for? To fight him again? Like, get out of here. I don't need that. That's not helpful.
Or Safi gear or Cultivate gear or like Elytrion stuff. It's like the final 4 fights of the game, and they expect you to have that gear to fight like Rathalos for the first time. I don't understand what the logic there is.
It's just like, oh, I want a cool build for dual blades in like the middle of high tier. All right, use the True Fatalis. Like what? Stop this. Anyway, yeah, it's just me. It's annoying.
But I think that's a pretty good tier list. I think. The one thing I was gonna say is I think Uragon is too low, personally.
Yeah.
I think you should move him up a little bit. I think he's better than like Jagras and Puke, but I don't know how anyone else feels about that. Looking at this tier list, I think he's the most out of place.
Uragon's lame.
Yeah, we have an Uragon hater here, so.
Oh well.
I mean, I'll fight Uragon over Safi.
All right.
I don't know though. I don't know. How are we looking on the order here? I think it's mostly fine.
I think the amount of monsters in each tier is actually pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think so as well.
It's a pretty good tier list. Good job, guys.
Yeah. Sick. All right. Anyway, see you guys next time. Peace.